Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're in for.
Oh, we got a busy show, and good morning. We'll recap the World Baseball Classic and, how we fell short. We'll get into some March Madness. We got our boy Germ from 559 Fights joining us at 8. We'll talk a little Condors, plus the return of Wild Thing Wednesday. Plus, we got some Condors tickets. If you'd like to go to Star Wars Night this Saturday, you can call or text in anytime throughout the show at 661-842-2000.
We'll talk to our guy Ryan Holt at 8:30, and I'm very excited to talk to Jermon this week as well. Like we said, he's got a fight coming up, but he's also part of warm-up athletics now, and the boy went and got married. So there's a lot that has been going on in Mr. Tabota's life. We will talk to him very, very shortly, but there's a whole bunch we have to start with. As Sparky said, Team USA comes up short yesterday, 3-2. Honestly, I'm going to stand by what I said yesterday. Although I wanted to see Team USA win, I think this is a good thing for the World Baseball Classic. I think more countries winning the World Baseball Classic keeps it exciting.
Keeps it competitive.
Absolutely. And again, you look at the roster that Venezuela had. Very sneaky. Very, very sneakily good. I mean,
that hit by Suarez.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
I mean, Suarez, the Contreras brothers are both on it. Salvi Perez, who, again, one of the best hitting catchers I've ever witnessed in my lifetime watching baseball.
And people take it way too serious, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I had people over on social media hitting us up like, this is just a disgrace. I'm like, no, dude, it is competitive.
Disgrace.
It's awesome.
Now, did we play well? Hell no. We were awful. 3 hits in a final game? Come on. But it's like I told you guys yesterday, it's spring ball still. We're a week away from, Major League starting, I grant you, but we're still at the beginning of the season. It's not like, Aaron Judge is going to be playing this way throughout the entire. Well, I hope he doesn't. That would actually suck. But no, I don't think Aaron Judge is going to be going 0 for 4 with 3 Ks every single game for the Yankees going forward. It's just spring ball. These guys are getting used to it. I'm glad to see Bryce Harper finally woke up a little bit. Was really hoping we got one Schwarber out of Kyle in that ninth inning.
Relying on those Phillies.
I'm just saying, but it is what it is. We come up short this year.
Either way, dude, it was
fun.
It was awesome to watch.
It sucked if you were a USA team or a Team USA fan, because obviously we did not do well at all. But I think it was still fun. I think it was still a really fun tournament in general. The biggest talking point that I wanted to get to, and I meant to pull the audio, but I didn't get a chance to do it last night, was all of the talking points from Mark DeRosa afterwards. Everybody is criticizing him again as a manager. I think people have to realize, and I know I just heard the show right before I was bringing this up, right before we came on, there are guidelines that he has to do this by, essentially. Not only are there different rules in the WBC that the MLB does not have, there's also the caveat of you have to answer to those MLB teams. And we heard from Mark yesterday say, the reason we didn't get Mason Miller in the 9th is because he had an agreement with both the Padres and the Red Sox. If they went into the 9th, if they went into the 9th tied or over by a lot, it was going to go to Whitlock, which it did. If it was a save situation, we were going to throw in Miller. Pretty self-explanatory if you know baseball. But because the situation went a certain way, that's why we got Whitlock instead of a Mason Miller in the 9th inning when we're tied 2-2. And to be honest with you, I don't think it would have mattered if you threw either of these guys out there. The bats weren't there all night. And ultimately, Whitlock didn't even give up a run the entire tournament until last night. So it's not like the guy was cold. He was pitching a gem throughout the entire tournament. So as it sits right now, I don't think we can really give Mark DeRosa the grief that everybody wants to. I know we're all disappointed right now, but just take it a step at a time. Team USA still look fantastic. And I again, if we had the full strength of the roster we were supposed to have, I'm pretty sure this would have went the opposite direction. Team USA might have woken up a little bit more.
We did have a listener saying, yes, it was entertaining, but having a social media doofus on as our manager was straight
True.
embarrassing.
No, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Mark DeRosa did not do himself any favors. They're not going to be calling this guy in 3-4 years to do this again. They're not. But again, there's guidelines, there are rules that I think everybody has to, take into account here. And he's still answering to all of those MLB teams whose players he is using. And if they don't follow whatever those teams say, they don't get those players in 3-4 years. They don't get to make those calls. And then we're relying on college kids to do this for us. And imagine what that's going to look like when they're going up against the Dominican Republic, Japan and Shohei Ohtani, now Team Venezuela and Ronald Acuna Jr.
We had another one that asked, what was the youngest player that played in the Classic?
WBC? Ooh, that is a good question. Are we just talking solely on Team USA's team?
Just through the whole thing.
I'll do a little bit of research here in a minute, and
I know there was a teenager, an older teenager,
right?
That was it with was Japan, I believe so. I don't know. While he's doing that, I mean that was a definitely entertaining game. I was watching the first the 2 games that were playing last night, switching back and forth. Thank you, YouTube TV, for having multi-screen where I can have all the games on.
So it looks like the youngest player that was in the WBC this year was a Joseph Contreras. He's 17 years old, and he was a pitcher for Team Brazil.
Okay.
So that was the youngest player. Now, if we're talking in the final, I'd have to do a little bit more research.
Yeah, I know realistically, Japan had a young pitcher too, but
absolutely.
Can you imagine being
17 in that situation?
Now I'm pitching to some major league players.
Well, and what's funny is the other side of this coin too. And I know it's not necessarily players who played in the final, but a lot of the Dominican Republican players are getting grief right now, like J-Rod and Soto, for coming out and saying that they would covet a championship in the WBC over a World Series championship in the MLB. And there's a lot of reason for that, but that's kind of part of it. The fact that a 17-year-old can go and play for Team Brazil and represent his country, it's much like the Olympics. These guys thrive for that kind of thing. And when you really take into account that guys like J-Rod and Soto and all of these were watching at 13 years old, watching the DR win a championship and the World Baseball Classic. And again, I've said this the last couple of days, and not a lot of people have chimed in on this, but I would still love to hear you guys' thoughts. There's a lot of argument that you can make that the World Series should be the World Baseball Classic.
I totally agree. I know I heard a lot of grief from some baseball fans yesterday because I sprung the same question.
Yeah.
I said, if you didn't hear on Early Bird, Burdick had a great topic. He said, shouldn't the World Series be what
the World
it's
Baseball
called?
Classic. Yes.
And they said, no, you can't take that. I said, not stand away from all the classic, the history.
Take the fan cap off for a second.
But doesn't it sound like it would be a perfect name?
If you're a non-baseball person and you were told the World Series takes place in the MLB, but there's literally nothing but American teams and a couple from Canada, come on. Again, I'm just saying in the namesake itself, it would be that way. I'm not saying we should change it. I was just bringing up the idea of it. And again, feel free to roast me if you want to in the comments. I do not care. But there's a lot of argument for it. But unfortunately, yes, Team USA comes up short this year. In 3 years, we're going to see Paul Skeens again. We're going to see a lot of these guys come back. I'm sure Bobby Witt Jr. will be on the team again. Roman Anthony, I would assume. I guess we'll get Corbin Carroll to jump in. You probably won't have Bryce Harper, but it is what it is. We'll figure out what happens here in the next 3 years. Before we shift off of this, though, one of the things that I had to highlight here, and this does go against America a little bit, but this is now back-to-back games in Miami where it seemed like there were no U.S. fans at all. And I understand it's Miami. Don't get me wrong. I understand the Dominican Republic ties there and the roots. I understand the Venezuelan ties and roots. But that place was rocking in the 9th inning, waiting for Team USA to lose. It just goes to show how many world fans of baseball there are in our just country as a whole. I loved seeing it. I won't lie to you. But at the same time, it did kind of feel weird that we were in America, in Miami, and Team USA wasn't seeing any support, like any. It was actually pretty dang wild. But the other thing we got to get to real quick as well before we go to break, your first four games were yesterday. Howard and UMBC was just as good as I was hoping. 86-83 was your final. A final shot coming down from UMBC did not go down. It was wide right. And overall, this game was just so much fun to watch. I can't wait to get this dang tournament started. March Madness is going to be great. Even the game we saw last night between NC State and Texas was way more competitive than I expected it to. And the Longhorns pulled it off. With the rough end of their season, I thought for sure NC State was going to be able to pull something out of their hat. Didn't work out for them. We saw two teams fight to come back. Both of them come up short. Did you get to watch either of these games, my friend?
I did.
And what's your thoughts?
I did. And I mean, it was a coin flip. I had a couple people text, who you got tonight? I'm like, really? It's a coin flip. I mean,
it really is. These first four games are so tough to call.
But they were competitive. I mean, what was it? A 2-point win by Texas.
Yep.
I mean, it was entertaining. It just put the blood in the water. I'm ready for some March Madness.
And actually, I think it was a 3-point win by Texas. Now I think about it, because he split the free throws at the end. And oh no, I might think of UMBC. One of those games ended that way. I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, I think you're right. This is just a great way to start the tournament. You get two more tonight. You get SMU and Miami of Ohio, and I believe the other one, I apologize, Lehigh and Prairie View A&M. We'll break those down here at some point during the show as well. I love the March Madness tournament. I filled out my bracket yesterday finally, and I'm actually surprised with who I had in the final. I won't lie to you. But I won't give away who I had, because that's just bad juju at the moment. I have very bad history with the March Madness tournament. Before I came here to AGM, I was actually one of the better people in terms of picking. I stepped foot in here in AGM. I start talking to Greg Kerr and Kyle Kerr, and my brackets go to hell. I don't know what the heck's going on. And I'm not blaming Greg and Kyle at all. I think they're brilliant, and Kyle knows way more about basketball or college basketball than I ever will.
I have learned when it comes to March Madness, it really is.
Don't listen to anybody else. Yeah. Just take your own.
Just look at them and pick.
Absolutely.
We have 20 something players that play in our MoneyWise one, and it's free of charge. We're not betting, but our receptionist went with the colors, and she won last year.
She won off of colors.
We've got 4 or 5 guys that played. I want to know,
how many of you guys out there, especially in today's day, use AI to actually fill out your bracket? Be honest. And I'm not going to criticize you or anything. I want to know how many people are actually doing that. Because I won't lie, I used AI a little bit, not to fill out my bracket, but to at least give me stats and like comparisons between teams that could play each other. 100% use that. But if you're literally saying, break down the whole bracket for me and who's going to win, and that works for you, I mean, like, seriously, that actually is successful, I want to know. Because if that's the case, AI has gotten way, way, way too good already.
Oh, yeah.
Way too good.
And they still do the $1 million if you can get a perfect bracket. No one's ever going to do that.
What is that? Not 1 in 9 quadrillion or something like that, they say?
It's insane.
It's an insane number. And if anybody ever does that, that will be the greatest championship in March Madness history. No matter who wins. I don't care. I will gladly go celebrate whoever actually gets a perfect bracket, because my God, are you Nostradamus.
And we just get a headline from ESPN saying the WNBA and its players union have reached an agreement to principle on a new CBA collective bargaining deal just in time to save the season.
Well done all around. See, again, we were all worried for nothing. They had a deal made, and I can't wait to read what the details are of this deal, because hopefully that means, one, the women get paid the money they're hoping they get paid, or like I said yesterday, maybe somebody decided we put it off a couple years. We allow the league to grow.
From what I've read, the more money will come as based on revenue. So
perfect. See, exactly. It's wait to see how the league expands with these new expansion teams. See how much revenue comes in from other teams as well. I think this is going to be a positive. And as I said yesterday, wouldn't more roster spots be a better solution as well, because more athletes actually get paid? That's just my personal opinion. I know, again, pennies on the dollar from what the NBA players are getting. I realize that. But all in all, if you're getting paid or more athletes are coming in and actually have roster spots, there's more opportunity for those women to actually shine. sell some jerseys and get more revenue them dang selves.
Yeah,
So,
somebody more important with money, or at least knows how to deal with money,
right.
hopefully told them, hey, you can either just juice this until there's nothing, or let's just play the long game,
100%.
make more money, and have a job after this
Absolutely.
season.
And then real quick, before we get to our first break of the day, Maxx Crosby has finally come forward and spoke about his experience in Baltimore. He dropped an episode of The Rush yesterday where he broke it down word for word. I wish I could play the whole story for
Dude,
you,
it is really good.
but unfortunately, if you watch The Rush, you know how Max talks, and Max is very colorful with his vocabulary. So I was able to pull what I could. Let's play the first bite. Actually, no. Let's play the second bite. We'll play the initial meeting bite after the break. But this, for Raider fans at least, is what Max had to say about the entire thing falling through and his mindset right now.
I don't play for that external stuff. Like, I play the game because I love it, because it's my passion since I was a child. I play for my legacy. I play to win. I play for my teammates. Honestly, bro, I was calm. I walked right back in that, my chest out. Like I said, everything happens for a reason, bro. I'm fired up. I'm here. I'm meant to be a Raider. It's like that scene of Sopranos. Silvio, he's like, do it for me, Sil. He's like, as soon as they thought I was out, they
Brought me back in.
So if you're a Raider fan, you had to at least love the fact that Max loves being back. He wants to be part of the team. And hopefully this means the Raiders aren't going to be moving off of him. They learned their lesson saying, hey, we just ripped our heart out and gave it to somebody else. That was a bad idea. But brighter pastures are on the horizon for the Raiders, in my personal opinion, especially defensively. We'll see what happens after the draft. After the break, we'll give you what Max had to say about his initial meetings and the doctor rundowns and everything that happened in Baltimore, and just the off feeling that he got from the meeting with him and the GM and him and the head coach. And on the other side of it as well, Trey Hendrickson had his press conference yesterday, and they asked him about the entire idea of the potential of him and Max having played together in Baltimore, what that could have been. So we'll hear from Trey as well. Let's take a break, though. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. Welcome back. Early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. Stop that time?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. Technical difficulties, we apologize. Real quick, before we move off this Maxx Crosby story, Max had explained the initial meetings with Baltimore. Here's what Max had to say on the rush yesterday.
I went there, did my thing, had my MRIs. Like I was asking Joe, like, yo, like, can I, like, before I left, I wanted to see the head coach, just chop it up, talk football, talk ball. Like, he's a defensive guy, never met him before like that, so I wanted to chop it up. So I didn't get to meet with him till the end of the day. I didn't get to see the GM at all. I thought I was going to see him when I first got there. I didn't see him for 5 hours.
So he didn't come out the whole time you're testing or doing your physical. Everyone's talking about
Never.
The GM never came once out to see you.
And I don't know why. I'm not going to speculate. I didn't see him one time. I even asked the girl. I was like, "Where's Eric at?" Like, I want to say, like, you know what I mean? Like, he just made the trade. Like, I didn't see him for 5 hours. So I go and do my thing. At the end, they're like, "Yeah, I'll take you up." Joe was like, "I'll take you up and you go see the head coach, whatever, just before you leave." I was like, "Hell yeah!" I was like, "That's what I want to say what's up to him." So I went back up, and I dap him up, and you could just tell like the energy was a little bit off. And the GM was standing in like the hall, like in the room next to me to the right, and that was the first time I seen him. And I'm just in my head, like this is a whirlwind. Like, I'm so excited, like fired up. You know what I mean? Like, this is a new opportunity, whatever. And you could just tell the energy was off. Like, I dapped him up. He had like a blank face. And I'm like, okay. I'm not thinking anything of it. Maybe he's just different. I don't know. I don't know him, whatever. Yeah. I go into the room. They sit me down on the couch. And he's like, "Man, I don't know how to say this, but, one of our doctors has concerns with the results and whatever. And like with your knee, like some of them have, are concerned about the future and da-da-da-da-da. And, we really want you and this is what it is. But, we're just going to have to get more and more opinions." And I was like, the first thought in my head, like, I was terrified.
So by terrified, and he continues on, and this is where I had to cut it off because this is where the language got very, very, very colorful. But he was more terrified that there was something seriously wrong with his knee and that the doctors and surgeons got it wrong and that he would be on the shelf way longer than he expected.
Of course, he's human, man.
Exactly.
If you've had a surgery, which was like 8-9 weeks ago,
yeah, you're going to have concerns.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And he talks about his surgeon that he has used, and he's the best in the world. So, of course, being a patient and dealing with a surgery 8-9 weeks ago, I mean, it's still fresh in your head.
Right. And this is the same surgeon, I believe, that's worked on guys like Patrick Mahomes and many others who've dealt with this type of injury. And he even got word from that surgeon that said, "Don't worry about it. You're good. You're actually ahead of schedule, blah, blah, blah." Like, he, told him, like, I don't know what they're talking about, essentially. So the main part of this, though, that I wanted to highlight, I can kind of understand why the energy must have been off, because I would assume DaCosta just got the deal done for Trey Hendrickson, and the doctors told them, "Hey, we got some concerns about Max's knee. We should probably send him back to Vegas." I can only assume they got that news at some point in between the meeting and Max's scans. So it's kind of understandable why the energy would be off, especially since how the hell are we going to explain to this star player who's super excited to be here? We've had him all day. We've flown him out. Unfortunately, we had to fly him to Washington, D.C. and then drive his butt 2 hours to Baltimore, but it is what it is. And now we have to tell him, "Oh, yeah, by the way, pack up your stuff in an hour and a half. You and your girlfriend are going back to Vegas." Like, how are you supposed to tell anybody that? So I kind of, and again, defending the Ravens a little bit here, because I do believe their plan was to have Trey and Max on the same defensive line. If I'm Baltimore, hell yeah, that's a plan. Are you kidding? That would be ideal, especially after the awful year getting to the pass rusher they had, or the passer, I apologize. The awful year in pass rushing they had last year getting to the passer. So why wouldn't you go get two of the best when it comes to that? And you're getting one of your best players coming back off of injury who also would bolster that pass rush. So, of course, that would be a great idea. But something went down. Baltimore's doctors, whom they quote unquote trust more than anything, believed that Maxx had something wrong with him. Again, I think this was a good thing for both teams. One, Baltimore saw that they had 9 starters leave in a matter of a day and then realized, oh God, we just gave away our first round draft picks for the next 2 years too. And then Maxx gets to go back to Vegas, a place where he probably should never have left to begin with. As we've said on this show a million times, he was the heart and soul of that team. He's the leader of that team. And now Vegas doesn't lose that. And as you heard from the bite before the break, there's no ill will towards Maxx and the Raiders at all. He walked right back in there with his head held high as if nothing happened and said, let's get back to work. If you're a Raider fan, that's got to make you jump for joy, to be completely honest with you.
Speaking of Raider fans, we had a listener text in, says, considering how upset Raider fans are at the Ravens on social media, you would think that they hate Maxx Crosby.
No kidding. But again, this is what we highlighted a couple weeks ago as well, when a lot of the fans were saying, ship him out. But they also fell in love with the idea of having 2 first-round draft picks for the next 2 years and how quickly you can rebuild a team that way. I'm just saying, I think this was a good thing. I think that all in all, it's just the football gods essentially coming back and saying, we're going to right this wrong for you so you can, realize that man is a one-helmet guy.
I hope so, because if the Ravens got any good mojo left, because watching football for the last 30, 35 years, I will say those football gods that he brings up is almost setting it up where Maxx Crosby is going to have a hell of a year.
Right.
I've seen it. I've seen it with my own team, with guys that we passed on because of what the team doctors think. And trust me, I mean, this is a perfect setup.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I'll go back to Hendrickson. He's going to be a stud in Baltimore.
And speaking of Hendrickson, this is what he had to say real quickly about the entire idea of playing with Maxx Crosby, and what they told him, obviously, when they signed him was, you and Maxx are going to be playing together.
Yeah, what a phenomenal opportunity that would have been. Nothing but respect for him and the way he carries himself on and off the field, the adversity that he's overcome in his personal life. And another guy I've met at the Pro Bowls and stuff like that, great person. At some point, that this was going to be something that I knew from myself and my family, that this was a tremendous opportunity to rush on a great defense, whoever's on the other side of the ball.
I would have loved to see these two play on the same defensive line, if I'm being completely honest. But I agree with you and a lot of other people on the internet, Sparky. I don't think they're really going to be missing out on Maxx much when they get Trey on that defensive line, hopefully getting 17.5 sacks a year.
If he could stay healthy.
If he could stay healthy, exactly. But the football gods were not happy with what went down, and they stepped in, intervened, and said, no. That man is a one helmet guy and will stay a Raider. And if the Raiders do not take this as a sign from the football gods and try to do something with Maxx Crosby or move off of him again, they will be punished, because that's how the football gods work. If you do not listen, they will punish you. Just look at my team. We didn't listen. They punished us. It is what it is. The other news out of the world of the NFL, the Eagles have reached a deal with Hollywood Brown, a 1-year deal that's worth up to $6.5 million to bolster that wide receiver room. But the question still remains, what's going to be going down with A.J. Brown? Is he going to be a Philadelphia Eagle next year? Are they going to move off of him? Personally, I think that he stays, just because there's not much, from what I hear from Adam Schefter, there's not much of a trade value. A lot of these teams have kind of moved on and secured other options. And the only option that's still kind of lingering out there is the Patriots, but they can't even do anything until June. So if you're waiting a couple months to get this done, you might as well hold on to the kid. It just first thing that pops into my head. But I said this yesterday, with Miami moving off of Jalen, you have a glaring hole in the wide receiver room. You got plenty of money to pay him. I say bring AJ over, but that's just me.
Not going to happen.
No.
Not going to happen. They're going the young route, and I like what Miami's doing. I mean, considering it wasn't a perfect job for anybody to take, but bringing over the guys from Green Bay, I think they have a plan. And I think, the show before us, they were pretty much calling, Chris Greer and the Miami Dolphins for the last few years, just somebody that, made oil money when oil was at the top, and they were overspending for everything, and they were trying to buy a Super Bowl. And when you overspend money that you don't have, you consider you're going to get caught up with. And now over $175 million of dead money that they're dealing with.
Mhm.
I think that they're setting up themselves, which another report came out with Schefter this morning saying A-Chain is not going to be traded, which means he's probably just want better offers, and he could probably be traded, but he's only 24 years old. So I think if they're going to keep it with Young, I think this is a perfect setup. They're eating a lot of that Tua money this year.
Mhm.
They're eating a lot of the Tyreek Hill money, the ton of stuff. But the good positive thing with the Jalen Waddle trade is the Denver is taking every cent, every bonus,
Mhm.
everything. And pretty much we got a first and a third and swap the fourths. So I personally think Miami is setting up themselves to be young
Mhm.
and get some young guys on the field, see what kind of talent they got, and build through the draft like most teams usually do.
Mhm.
And we'll see what happens. But hopefully, God, please don't trade A-Chain. That's the only one that will break my heart. But I think these guys are doing it the right way. So I think it would be foolish for them to bring in a high price type guy with AJ Brown with a history of drama with the wide receiver. I think with all these, I think they have 7 draft picks in the first 3 rounds. I would expect them to address the wide receiver within the draft.
I agree, but again, I just feel like a big name wide receiver would help a guy like Malik Willis a ton. And I agree. I heard the same thing this morning coming from I gotta look at the name of the show. I apologize. Nick Costos was talking about it this morning, and he makes a good point that you can sell Malik Willis pretty well to the fan base, especially if he comes out and has a pretty good season as a quarterback. And you do need a franchise guy at that position. It would make the franchise feel better if you had that already, rather than just sitting there saying, well, maybe this is a bridge guy and you can wait a year and find someone like Arch in the next year. But I'm just saying that a guy
Want
like
Dante.
AJ coming over, I think would be a great pass catcher to rely on at least for a year. I don't think you move off of A-Chain just because, like you just said, he's young. And with the value of running backs going the way it is, it would benefit Miami to hold on to a guy long term so you can have a high likelihood of a team-friendly deal in that area as well. Or you could overpay him early, in which you could sit there and restructure it throughout the entirety of that contract, much like a lot of people do with quarterbacks.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do with the Jalen Waddle money.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Miami. It's going to be a rough year, unfortunately, or from what they're predicting, anything can happen if we're being honest, and they could
5
turn it
6
around.
wins with a young team, or they could surprise. There's always a team that surprises people.
Agreed.
But what was funny is I love me some Jarvis Landry, being a Dolphin fan, and he immediately tweeted last night after the Waddle trade and said, "Hey man, I could be ready in 2 months.
Oh,
I'll be
Lord.
at camp. Just let me know."
You know what? I could see a guy like
I
him
would love
making
that.
a comeback too.
I love Jarvis Landry.
It was shocking to me that a lot of teams didn't want to pick him up when he became a free agent. He was one of the best pass catchers for a long, long time. I think that he gets a bad rap, though, that a good amount of the routes that he would catch these on were short routes. But even then, if you could rely on this guy to catch something 3 yards over the offensive line and then take it for 15, why wouldn't you grab him?
Right?
That's the weird thing to me.
At least throw him in the camp body and see what he could do.
That's what I'm thinking. And then the other story out of the NFL before we get to our break here. Did you see the Gastineau lawsuit got dropped? Mark Gastineau, if you don't remember, the former sack king of the NFL, had his $25 million lawsuit dropped by a federal judge yesterday. And it all has to do with the New York Sack Exchange video movie that ESPN had produced. He claimed that ESPN, NFL Films, and all these people made him look bad, especially with that video that came out in 2023 of the exchange between him and Brett Favre, where he pretty much told Brett Favre that you hurt me by laying down for Michael Strahan. And then he claims that it made him look just terrible. It made him look like a psychotic person. So he was suing ESPN, the NFL, Films people, and a whole bunch of others for $25 million in damages. The judge said, yeah, no, You agreed to this. You signed off on it. They're able to use whatever footage that they have. And really, they didn't make you look anything that you weren't already looking. So I feel for Mr. Gastineau. I do, because the way he lost his record definitely doesn't sit well with a lot of sports fans. But a $25 million lawsuit claiming that they made you look bad when you went on a tirade in 2023 that got recorded when you went to a meet and greet for Brett Favre and pretty much tried to lay into him. So Brett would say, I'm sorry I did that, even though we all know Brett's not sorry. Brett's not going to look at you and say, I'm sorry, man. It was history. No, Brett could not care less, as he told you that day. So again, I feel for Mr. Gastineau. I do. But at the end of the day, you made yourself look like that, dude. Nobody made yourself look like that but you.
And you see the NFL came out and announced the opening game will be on a Wednesday night this year.
Really?
It will not be Thursday night football to kick off the season. It's actually going to be a Wednesday game, which is September 9th. And they haven't announced who's going to play besides the Seahawks. It'll be the Seahawks taking on somebody, but they are going to kick off the season on a Wednesday night this year.
I'm telling you, dude, the NFL and Roger Goodell will never rest until there is football every single day of the week. And as a football fan, I'm here for it. I'm 1000% all for football every day of the week. But we're starting the season on a Wednesday.
Yep.
A Wednesday. Can we not start on a Monday?
It'll still be a Thursday game. But now we're going to get a Wednesday, Thursday to kick off the season.
Okay. Yeah. At least we get 2 season starters, I guess. But we couldn't have done this on a Monday. Why don't we just start the week with it? Everybody would have been so much happier. We could just start our week with football. Why do we have to wait until hump day? That makes
so it'll be the Wednesday after Labor Day.
Okay, whatever. Again, that's the NFL, and they're never going to rest until we have a football game every single day of the week. And they'll even bow to college. They'll even let college have Saturday. They won't care. They'll say, you know what? We'll take a day off. You guys can have it. The kids can have Saturdays. Let's take a break. We got some other stuff we got to get into. Draymond Green came out in his podcast the other day. We were talking about how the NBA is going to be voting to expand the league 2 more teams, bring back Seattle, and give a team to Las Vegas. Draymond Green claims there's not enough talent in the NBA for them to expand. We'll play his bite, and we'll get your guys' thoughts on the other side as well. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. It's been a while, but we decided to bring Wild Thing Wednesday back since we have plenty of wild stories to talk about every single week. And this week, we got a couple for you. At least I do. I don't know exactly how many Sparky's got, but we're going to start with an update of a wild story that we told you guys a couple days ago. This Aiden Holloway story, the Alabama Crimson Tide's second leading scorer. We were initially told that it was just 1 pound of marijuana that he was found with. 2.1 pounds found in his premises in multiple parts of the house. I hear they found some in a backpack. They found some in a TV stand. They found some all over the place. He claims that all he does is smoke. They're claiming it's not for that.
That's a lot of smoke.
That is a lot. But then again, these kids get paid a lot of money. So maybe he just really liked to strand. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Regardless, he has 2 felony charges that he'll be facing: possession of marijuana not for personal use and failure to affix a tax stamp, both of which carry a 10-year prison sentence and $15,000 in fines. The thing that's wild about this story, though, he is just below the Alabama trafficking threshold at 2.2 pounds. He had 2.1. So unless this kid knew what he was doing and knew exactly the amount he could have on hand without getting, trafficking charges, I don't know exactly what his plan was, but there's no evidence of distribution, says his lawyer. All of this is alleged, so we will find out what happens to Aiden. Hopefully he's telling the truth and all of this just goes away. He could start his NBA career and just everybody knows him as a pothead instead. But as it sits right now, a lot of this evidence is really showing that this kid was most likely doing something he wasn't supposed to do, which would be absolutely terrible for his oncoming career in the NBA. And he'd be facing at least 10 years in prison at the very least. So I'm going to be hoping and praying for Aiden Holloway that he figures something out here. And the other story that I wanted to share as well, the NFL has distributed $524 million in performance-based pay in 2025. That's a $90 million increase from last year. And this is the first year ever that all top 25 earners gained over $1 million apiece. That's all from performance-based pay. Now, for those people who are wondering, who are these men getting all of this money? It's traditionally players that you don't know that are gaining money based on stuff inside of their contracts, qualifications they have to hit. Nashawn Wright from the Bears was the top earner this year with $1,400,000. Ronnie Hickman from the Browns was right underneath him at $1.3 million. Elijah Wilkinson, Nick Scott, Chris Paul, not that Chris Paul, the Chris Paul that plays football. Andrew Voorhees. Again, it's names that most people probably won't know a ton. Xavier Watts is one of the biggest ones that I could see here that I recognize. Obviously, he plays for Atlanta, but that's why. But still, over $542 million allocated to players from last year due to performance-based pay. And just so you know, as a total, the NFL has shared, it's down here somewhere, about $3 billion, $3.3 billion since they started doing this in 2002 to players on performance-based pay. That's pretty cool, in my opinion. I know we've talked about it a couple of times, especially when it comes to these massive contracts you see. Maybe they should have more incentive-based pay. Maybe you pay this guy only a certain amount based on how well he does during that season. They obviously do it with a lot of other earners, so why not do it with the bigger guys? But with all of these players gaining $1 million a piece, I think that's pretty dang good. And if it just means that they're going to increase their play next year, I think that's a positive for each of their teams as well. Did you have any, my friend?
That was it.
That was it. Fantastic. A couple more stories before we get out to our guests here. The day. We got Jermon Taboda coming up here at 8 o'clock. And then Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors will be joining us at 8:30.
I'm glad you brought up the NBA story. I also read that Steve Kerr is pushing for a cut on the season. Too many games, and he, played as an NBA player, now coaching for several years, and he thinks it's time.
If we're going to be expanding the league, maybe that is the time to do it, because more teams means more opportunities to play other people twice. And maybe instead of just having an 82 game season, we finally find a way to drop it down to 65, 62, somewhere in that area. I know a lot of basketball fans would actually kind of prefer it that way. The season is pretty long. I personally love the length of the season, but I've grown up with it being 82 games my entire life, so I really can't say anything different. I don't know exactly if expanding the league and shortening the season, though, are two questions that they're going to be answering at the same time. That's the thing. I think that they're expanding just because they know that's going to be more money for the league, and we're going to be gaining more revenue and getting more eyes on the product and lowering the amount of games. I don't know. Like, I feel like that's a contrary idea at this point.
Because you're not going to make more money,
Right. Not playing more games.
especially if your idea is to expand and make more money with two teams with two bigger markets.
Right.
I personally, just being a big NBA fan, I think it's fine with
Yeah.
how it is. And if we're going to talk about any sport, cutting into games, I think it's baseball.
Yeah, no, baseball definitely needs to figure out a situation where they could lower the games because there are far too many regular season games as a whole. But regardless, there are players in the league right now that don't even believe they should expand because there's not enough talent, says Draymond Green. This is what he had to say.
I just really worry that there's not enough talent to add 30 more spots. I mean, you look at some of these teams around the NBA and you don't know half the guys' name who take the NBA floor. I just don't remember being that way when I was growing up. And so I just think the talent pool is going to get watered down more and more from a basketball standpoint. And it already hasn't been that great.
I'd argue he has a point, but the contrary that I'm going to throw out there, or the retort, I should say, with the pure amount of young talent that we never get to see, would it not be good or be better if we open up more roster spots for that young talent? I mean, we have college players wanting to leave the G League and go back to college because they're not getting the opportunities. So if we do open up 30 more roster spots, would, again, like I say about the WNBA, would that not create those opportunities? Would that not allow some of these players to have their moment? That's the first thing that pops into my head when I say that. But again, he's not necessarily wrong. A couple years ago, I was saying that the NBA never had this many stars in it at one time. Now it's all dwindled off because a lot of these guys, either through injuries or retirement, aren't at that same level anymore. So he has a point when it comes to superstars. True, we really don't have that many in the NBA anymore. But more opportunity means more likelihood that you find that next superstar. So an expansion, in my opinion, would really just help find that guy, would it not?
I think the same thing. I mean, I could understand where he's coming from, but he's also getting up there in age. And I mean, coming from him, it's
because that's the other question I was going to bring. Is this more of an old head comment? Like, is this more of just the guy that says, I've been in the league for years and you guys can't live up to the guys I played up against?
That's what it sounded like.
Right.
But that's what I got out of it. But I mean, just as a fan, I can see where he's coming from.
Right.
But, I think it's going to be good for the NBA to have these big, markets in Seattle, in Vegas, going down to Vegas to catch, a Laker game in Vegas. Yeah. I mean, that'll be dope. But I also can see, my real question is what we kind of dug into yesterday is how it's going to get started, whether it's the draft, a pool for, a veteran pool,
yes,
something. But I'm kind of excited to see, one, the Supersonics, but two, to see what kind of NBA crowd Vegas can bring in.
God, explaining the history of the Supersonics leaving for what, a decade? How long has it been?
At least.
It's
been a while.
It has been a while, but I'm with you. I can see his point and what he's trying to say. I just would argue that opening up more roster spots would just give you that opportunity. And we're talking about this next draft class as being generationally good. You look at all the freshmen that are in the first team alone, the first team All-Americans. I mean, there's a lot of talent that's going to be coming from college here very soon, and they're going to be needing opportunity.
And maybe that brings in the G League a little more competitive.
Yeah. And honestly, I'd have to look into this more, but I want to know, what's the rate of basketball players retiring now? Are they staying longer? Because if they are, that means less opportunities for younger players, which would also mean that's why you don't know their names, because guys like Draymond Green are still out on the court while guys that are young and unknown aren't seeing the court. So really, is it a problem that can be fixed? I don't know. We'll see what happens when it comes to the expansion. We got to get to our guests on the other side. Jermon Tabota first. He's got a fight with 559. And then Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors right after that at 8:30. We'll be right back in about 5 minutes. This is the Early Bird Special. Don't go nowhere. Welcome back. Early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. We were supposed to be joined by Tremont. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm working with it.
Are you? He's probably just caught up in traffic. But this is where we overproduce. This is where,
That's why you prep.
yes.
I won't say any names, but
Don't say it. Don't you say it, because you're going to get me on a tirade and I'm going to get in trouble. Don't you say it.
just a reminder, not only do we have tickets to the Condor game this
Yes.
Saturday, but we have a big event coming up Monday.
Yes, if you would like, you can come join us. Unfortunately, there are no more teams, so if you're a golfer, you ran out of time. But the Honor Flight Open will be going on Monday at the Bakersfield Country Club. You can come out and watch and make donations if you'd like. This entire tournament is to raise money to give to Honor Flight Kern County. It is a local charity. It's actually not a local charity. It's a national charity, but it's a charity here locally that takes our local veterans and veterans from around the area, including even as far up as Fresno, to Washington, D.C. to see all of their memorials and just get to really get the praise and admiration that they should have gotten in the first place when they were serving our country, because a lot of these people did not, especially from war to war, depending on which one you're talking about. So if you would like to make a donation, if you would like to come out and just enjoy a day of golf, please come join us at Bakersfield Country Club. I believe we tee off at 10 or 11. I'm not 100% sure. I know it is around that time, though, so feel free to come down, make a donation, come say hi to the veterans, shake their hand, do whatever you would like. We would love to see all of you, and myself and Sparky will be down there. I'll be wearing an early bird shirt, so if you see somebody walking around in an early bird shirt or just, with an ugly mug, feel free to come up and say hi. If it's me, I'll say hi to you.
You know what I'm excited about? This is way from left field, but I'm waiting on Germ to text me back. I know we have plenty to talk about, but we rarely get to talk entertainment.
Yes.
And a show is coming back tonight that I've been waiting forever to come back, and that is Invincible.
Oh,
the first 3 episodes of Invincible are released today, and for it's very rare, but Rotten Tomatoes have rated 100%.
I need somebody to hook a brother up with an Amazon account. I do not have an Amazon account at the moment. No, I forgot about that one because I've been waiting for Daredevil to start here in about a week.
Oh, dude, that new trailer looks awesome.
I need to watch the last season that came out on Disney Plus so I can catch myself up, because I'm one of those people that I will watch and binge a whole show, but I'll get it done in like a week. So I will forget everything that happened during that season. So I'll have to go back and at least watch the last season.
And
just
The
so I know
Boys
what's going on.
is 2 weeks away. So that's
the
another
only
one.
show that I know exactly what's going on because I've watched it so religiously. It is such a good show. If you have not watched The Boys, you're doing yourself a disservice. It really is one of the best superhero shows out there, and led by one of my favorite actors in Keith Urban. Love that guy, but I just can't get over how good this show is and how Amazon has really made it. And for those of you who don't know, you could thank Seth Rogen for that. Seth Rogen was one of the main heads to get this show off the ground, along with a lot of the other Amazon stuff, from what I understand. So if you are enjoying a lot of what Amazon has for you, you could thank the stoner Seth Rogen for that one. A story that we didn't get to yesterday, though, that I wanted to touch on, being a USC fan. Matt Leinart's getting a lot of grief right now because he came out and said that he will never let the college unretire his number 11 jersey. I don't blame him. I really don't. But at the same time, this is a problem that I've kind of thought of years ago. What happens when you retire all the numbers? You can't really retire everybody's number, and some people have to lay on their sword and just say, we'll let you take it. Carson Palmer has done it in the past, let people wear number 3. But Matt claims he will never let it happen. There's no amount of money that USC can offer him to let it happen. The only people that he would ever allow to wear number 11 would be his sons if they decided to go play at USC. That is the only person, or people, I should say, because I believe he has 2, that he will allow to actually wear his number.
Which I can totally understand that.
He thinks that the argument he is making is he's afraid some kid's going to come in, wear number 11 for a year, and then transfer, and then that will sully the legacy of the number.
Which makes more sense than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I kind of get his reasoning, but at the same time,
I thought of you when I
gotta
read
just
that
lay on the
story because
sword.
there's two stories I want. One, I have to give it up for the Raiders, which I rarely will ever say, but Raiders Al Davis made that real clear back in the day that we can't retire numbers because we wouldn't have any numbers to
Right.
field a team.
Right.
And two is this same type of story is coming out in New England as the Patriots announced yesterday that they will not retire Rob Gronkowski's number,
Right.
which pissed off a lot of Patriot fans. But at the same time, I mean, especially with the NFL, there's only 99 numbers. Well, I guess you can count 100 now because they play 0.
Yeah, or 00. Yeah.
But I mean, with the NFL being this, this competitive and so many players, great players play for each team. I mean, if you start retiring these numbers, it's going to get to the point, and I could see the college side of it because all the transfers are going on. But with the NFL, do you think that the Patriots are doing right by not retiring the number 87, or do you kind of go with the fans where like, dude, Gronk is Gronk?
I think personally it's more about the name on the back than it is about the number. I've always kind of felt that way, unless it's part of your brand, like Tom Brady, TB12, Russell Wilson, RW3, all that, CP3 for Chris Paul. Like, if you make it part of your brand, like Lamar's doing right now, then I guess you could make the comparison if you have to retire both. But no, I really don't think that your number is that valuable. Like, I mean, it is valuable in a sense of it's your identity. It's the biggest thing on your jersey. But retiring the number, yeah, I don't think it holds as much weight as it used to. Although there is an argument that can be made here that if you are going to retire numbers, it needs to be the best of the best. It needs to be the Gronkowskis or the Tom Bradys and stuff like that because of just how good they were. So it could really go either way. My personal opinion, though, yeah, I don't think it's really that big of a deal anymore. I think that you could really live with letting somebody wear your number because then the argument could always be who was the better 87? Who was the better number 11? Was it Matt Leinart or was it this kid? You know what I mean? Like, sports people in general were look for reasons to compare players. So why not give them another reason? And I agree with Mr. Davis. We can't retire numbers because then inevitably you won't have any left. If the league lasts as long as you want it to, okay, everybody's going to have to retire this number. Everybody's going to have to, especially specific people. Like, let's take baseball, for example. No one will ever wear number 42. Hockey, no one will ever wear number 99. Basketball, only certain players have the chutzpah to really wear number 23 or 24. So when that starts happening, there becomes a problem because there's only a certain amount of numbers. So that's why I'm kind of on Mr. Davis's side here. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I think it's more about the last name on the back than it is about the number. But that's just me. I don't know.
Which I've seen other NFL teams where they put up their names not really worried about the number. I know the Dolphins have done it. Obviously, no one's going to wear number 13 in Miami.
Right.
But, I mean, you've got to be like a Hall of Famer or just the face of this team. You start putting in numbers, retiring numbers like, say, the Gronkowskis. And, I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, like the Patriots, they're banning anybody that's wearing Aaron Hernandez jerseys this year for the first time. And they've opened it up where if you only have a Hernandez jersey and don't have the money to buy another jersey, that you can swap them out.
See, that's a little extensive. When you're trying, I get what they're trying to do. And to ban anybody for wearing a specific jersey is wild.
It's something that they bought and you
sold. Like
you accepted.
I get the opportunity to swap it out if you want to. I've seen that done so many times, especially when a player leaves or, what have you. But to ban fans for wearing a Hernandez jersey, that's extensive. That's a little too much in my personal opinion. And again, should people be celebrating Aaron Hernandez? Probably not. But he still played for you. And if they were a fan of his, and like you said, they can't really afford another jersey, maybe that's their favorite jersey. Maybe that's their lucky jersey. I know a lot of sports fans that aren't going to part with a jersey for stupid reasons. I don't know. Banning somebody for that? That's too far. That's a little too much. Like
It's the first I've heard. I've seen it where like
that's like Mike, or that's like Atlanta Falcons fans. Or I'm sorry, that's like
the
the
Vic.
Atlanta Falcons saying we're gonna ban everybody who wears a Michael Vick jersey. Like that's weird. No. Like, why are we even? I get like, should we glorify what he did? No, but at the same time, much like we do with a lot of other famous people, we can compartmentalize. We can see the football player and the POS he was outside.
right?
Like we do that with Tyreek Hill all the time. Like
Yes.
all the time.
OJ.
Yeah, OJ, exactly. So why can we not do it in this situation? I don't know. That's the weird part about fandom sometimes, though. Or teams specifically try to wipe away their history. I don't necessarily feel like that's a good thing, but it is what it is. Real quick, let's shift over to baseball. There were some rule changes that might be made here in the minor leagues just to test out some things for the majors. I wanted to run by you, my friend, just to see what your thoughts were here. Uh, First, the MLB is deciding that in AAA this year, they will be moving second base to its correct geometric spot. This is to shorten the distance between base lengths and create more opportunities for steals. What say you? I mean, I think that's a nice idea,
I like it.
especially if we're looking for more offensive based baseball.
That's definitely what it'll do. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Do you?
I have no problem with it whatsoever, and especially if it's just returning it to its quote unquote correct geometric spot. I'm assuming that means it's been off for a while and they've wanted to change this, but a lot of these rules seem like they're going to be based on more allowing teams to steal more or at least get more opportunities to do so. The second one will be fewer pickoff attempts. Again, this will be in the minors. In AA, pitchers will only get one disengagement per bat. So basically what that means is if they step off to like get the runner to come back, they can only do that one time before inevitably the guy gets to go to second base. It's a balk at that point if you do that twice.
Which reminds me of last night's game when was it Suarez took off to third base,
and they had to move him backward.
Yeah, I understood coming back, but the review. So break down that rule for me, because if he didn't touch third base coming back,
base runners, if you like he did, he tried to steal third, but it was a pop up. So if you touch the base, if he touched third, he has to touch it again before returning back to second. Otherwise, you never really did the proper thing. So they could tag you out at third base. So that's what they were reviewing.
I played baseball for 20 years.
It's one of
rare.
those weird baseball technical rules that rarely ever happen. Exactly. And good for Suarez because I don't even think he even knew he tapped it, but he slid right off the base and that made it a no-brainer for me. That's why I was confused why it took so long for them to come up with the ruling. I'm like, you can clearly see his cleat slide right off of third base, man. I don't know what you're looking for here. The third rule that they'll be looking at, AAA Pacific Coast League specifically, will have a high-tech check swing system. This one I like. Okay, so what they're doing is that they're going to be putting a bat tracking technology that will help determine swings. So in baseball, a check swing is anything that is under 44 degrees. Okay, if you break 45-degree angle, that is a full swing in baseball. So for most people who watch baseball, when you see your batter go, and he's trying to hold up so he doesn't do it, he's trying to hold it within 44 degrees, or technically from the sight line of the umpire, because that's what they go off of now. And if he does, it's a ball still. If he doesn't, that is a check swing. That's a full swing. So what they're doing in AAA is they have a technology they are going to use that is going to be able to determine if the batter actually swung 45 degrees or not and created that 45-degree angle, making it easier for umpires to get the call right. And players can challenge the call on the system as well. This one, I think, is going to help a lot in the majors because we have a lot of situations where there are check swings that are called outs. And especially now with ABS, yes, we can keep umpires honest when it comes to their balls and strikes, which there was an egregious one the other day in the Reds game that was right down the middle. But with this, it'll help the baseline umpires as well be held in check, because if they call something wrong, now we can go to the check system and say, check system said he was 43 degrees. That's not a full check swing. Therefore, it is a ball. And although I know a lot of, traditional baseball fans don't want to see more tech in baseball, this might help though. It'll limit strikeouts. It'll help with consistency of bats, and honestly help with just consistency of calls from umpires. So I think that's a really good one. The last two here, stricter pitch clock enforcement. They're in various ways. Low A, which is like the lowest rookie ball you can get to, no batter timeouts. High A, you get a timeout with only runners on base. Upper minors, you get a shorter timeout and the clock starts immediately. And basically all of this is just to get the game going faster. That one I don't think they're really going to implement. I think this is just them kind of throwing stuff out there, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And then the one that's really interesting, and this is only in lower levels, rookie ball and lower, pitchers are now going to be allowed to re-enter games. So say your pitcher runs into your young pitcher runs into some problems in the third inning, up 2 or 3 runs. You pull him, you put a reliever in. You can now have the option to put that pitcher that you just pulled in the third back in the fourth to start again. The reason they're doing this is to kind of reserve young arms and not have so many get blown out so early. It'll also open up opportunities for teams to kind of play chess with each other at the lower levels and rely on relief pitching a little bit more.
I like that one.
You like that one?
I like it, but I don't think it's going to work out as well as they think. I think that's going to work out. I know a lot of pitchers, once they get in their head for the day, they're in their head for the day.
Yes.
But it definitely will help with, running through a bullpen or getting some older guys some rest.
Your young pitcher gets a chance to sit down, relax for a second. They
Shake
get
it
you
off.
out of the inning. You now get to start with a brand new slate in the next one. If your manager decides he wants to go that direction, and you still get the reps you need.
And managers will use that as chess pieces.
Oh,
for sure.
easily. 100%. Like if they see at all somebody's going to be in trouble, they'll have their best reliever ready to bail them out. And that's a good thing for the reliever as well, because it gets them more opportunity to get in the game early and just have more eyes on them. So, and again, I like a lot of these. I just love how the MLB uses their minor league system to kind of test a lot of these rules. You see the NFL kind of doing it now with the XFL. They're letting the XFL kind of be innovative with a lot of the rules, and then they adopt them if they work out pretty well. But
as it should. That's what the minor leagues are for.
Exactly. And although it does create new rule changes that a lot of these major leaguers have to get used to as they go up the ladder, it's still just interesting ways to kind of adapt the game of baseball. I like the idea that we could have more steals coming pretty soon here. I like the idea of a checked swing system. Since we now have an automatic ball and strike system, why not take it a step further and keep everybody accountable so we know all calls get done correctly? I think fans are okay with that at the end of the day. But if you have a problem with any of these rules, or if you think any of them are dumb, feel free to text us 661-842-2000. We'd love to hear from any of you. You can call or text at any point in time. Should we keep going, or should we take a break real quick before Ryan Holt gets in here? Let's take a break then. On the other side, we will have Ryan Holt of the Bakersfield Condors. The Condors split their games against Texas last week, but there's still plenty to look forward to. They got a game against the Gulls on Friday, plus Saturday right here, the Dignity Health Arena, Star Wars night. We have tickets for you if you would like to go. Just call or text in right now and Spark can hook you up. 661-842-2000. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back. Early bird special right here on KGPO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors will be joining us here momentarily to talk about our favorite AHL team. But let's get you set up for today's first 4 games. We saw the first 2 take place yesterday. We had 2 fantastic games. Howard and UMBC, a fantastic turnout. 86-83 was your final. Texas beating NC State last night by 3 as well. But tonight you'll have SMU against the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. This is the team that everybody's been talking about. I said, earlier this week, I kind of find it a little, disrespectful. This team is 31-1 and was forced to put into the play-in part of this tournament, especially being that they score 90 points a game. Now, granted, it's been pretty easy competition, but still racking up 90, 91 points a game, being 4th nationally in efficiency is pretty dang impressive, regardless of who you're playing. And this game is going to be fun. It really is. It's going to be a clashing of 2 styles. SMU, very physical, wants to beat you down low. The Redhawks, very fast, want to beat you with their guards. So this is going to be a interesting move here. The biggest question to me, though, is if SMU is going to be getting their star defender back in Edwards, because he is number 1 in the ACC in steals, and this is a Redhawks team that is pretty dang good in assist to turnover ratio, meaning they don't beat themselves ever. And if they can shoot the ball well, it's going to be hard for the Mustangs to really keep up with if they're not causing turnovers. So the Redhawks, who also kind of find themselves in a home game, mind you, because this is in Dayton, Ohio. So this is somewhat a home game for them. Could be seeing themselves play into the tournament here and play into that 11 spot. I'm interested to see, but this is probably going to be the toughest game they've had all year, just competition-wise. So we're really going to see what Miami of Ohio is made of. Are you excited to watch this one, my friend?
I am. I personally, everyone is just giving crap to Miami, Ohio.
I want them to win this game.
I want them to win just because of that.
Yeah. And again, you guys heard me when we talked to our guy Snacks. I don't expect them to go far, but if they could win one game, at least it would shut up doubters.
Yeah.
It would at least shut up everybody.
I think they could pull it off, but then probably choke.
More than likely. It would again, which is fine. I mean, again, that's just kind of how the March Madness tournament is going nowadays, unfortunately. But I would like to see the Redhawks win as well. Right now, SMU is sitting at a 6.5, 7.5 point favorite for you if you are a betting person. But as it sits right now, I think they have a pretty good chance. Everything is lining up for them. It's kind of a home game for them. Like I said, they have a high efficient offense that loves to run. And if they can outrun a very tall, very big, very physical team in this, in SMU and the Mustangs, they could find themselves in the tournament. And then the other game you'll see tonight, Lehigh against Prairie View A&M. This is also a very fun game that you'll be able to check out, I believe, on ESPN. I'm not 100% sure. But both of these teams are coming off pretty impressive win streaks. Lehigh has a 6-game win streak going into this. They were the Patriot League champions. And then Prairie View A&M is on a 7-game win streak. Another clashing of styles, though, led by 2 incredible scorers. Lehigh has a kid named Nasir Whitlock, who is a walking bucket. This guy has 8 30-point games this year. 8. If that doesn't get you a pretty good look in the NBA, I don't know what will. And on the opposite side, Prairie View has a player named Dante Horn, who is a 20-point scorer in his own right. And this team is so balanced at the free throw line that if they can cause these key players for Lehigh to get into some foul trouble, they could win this game at the free throw line. I know a lot of you were so upset when you watch Bam Adebayo score 83 points at the free throw line. So maybe this isn't the game for you, but for me, I think this is perfectly fine. I think that Lehigh and Prairie View are going to be a great way to kick off this tournament and get us ready for Thursday, because my God, can I not wait?
Yeah,
I can't wait.
We'll still be live in the mornings,
Yes.
but the rest of that, I mean, we're going straight into basketball after our show, leading all the way up until 10 o'clock at night for the next few days. So this will be our March Madness, and I'm excited. I know you're not going to throw out who you're picking. I've had a couple people text into the show today. They're all in on Duke, which made me go a different direction because, I can always go with, the favorite. I'm not going to win anything if I go with the favorite.
true.
So I switch it up a little bit. I went with Michigan on one,
Nice.
and I went with Houston as my
Michigan State. I have Houston. I have Iowa State. And I have Arizona. Those are my 4. I won't tell you who I have winning out of that. But those are
I
my
know
4.
a lot of people. The guy that or the girl that won last year told me she's going with Arizona again.
Yep. Again,
I said, okay.
why not? Well,
Do
it
it.
didn't work out for you very well last year as
No.
Florida won. But hey, at least
And
you won the
I looked
bracket.
at the Vegas, and Vegas odds got, they've got Duke as number 1,
Mhm.
Michigan State, and I believe Arizona at 3rd,
Mhm.
which
It's going to be a battle of the top 3, 4 seed teams, in my personal opinion, as I said yesterday. But that's just kind of how this tournament has gone, with the NIL kind of shifting everything towards those bigger market teams. And I actually have a text here too from Kyle Kerr, who gave me some interesting information on stuff he had shared on his show. I have to find it real quick. But some of the actual wage gaps for these teams are incredible. So these are just for the round of 34. I'm sorry, the round of 64, real quick before we get to our break and get to Ryan Holt. The biggest discrepancy in terms of money spent on the roster, $17.2 million. That's Kentucky and Santa Clara. But one of the most wild ones to me, Purdue Queens. Purdue puts down 8.8 million on their roster. Queens 700,000. Like, that's the difference that we're seeing. I mean, Duke and Siena. Duke put down 12 million. Siena's got 650K.
some of those players are making more on Duke than that whole
the
team.
entire team is. So the discrepancy is pretty dang large. The likelihood for a major Cinderella, not very high. But we might see some knock some out in the first round, because that is the fun of the March
That's
Madness
usually
tournament.
when it is, yeah.
And some of these teams are coming into this tournament incredibly cold. If we have any time, we'll give you some more stats on the other side. Just so you know as well, if you're a betting man, that Lehigh Prairie View game, Lehigh is 12-0 if they score more than 42% of their threes. That's pretty impressive as well. I don't know exactly if I'm going to bet or put down anything on any of these games, but I love March Madness. I'm going to be watching more basketball in the next month than I have in my entire lifetime, more than likely.
And we'll have Bull Brady tomorrow to help, or Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, tomorrow. Is it today's Wednesday?
Yes, today
right?
is. God,
I am
dang,
so
dude.
lost, dude. Bull Brady tomorrow will help. And
That's how
obviously he's not going to help with your bracket.
Pulling back the curtain a little bit. That's how you know me and Sparky work too much, because we
Yeah.
don't even know what day it is. It's all a blur to us at this point. Let's take a break. We got to get to Ryan Holt on the other side, our Wednesday regular, as we should always remember that. But we'll talk all things Condors as our favorite AHL team comes back home this weekend to take on the Wranglers for Star Wars night. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. Oh, we definitely can't play this on YouTube.
Good.
Oh, Disney's coming after us. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. And it is Star Wars night this weekend for the Condors, as you just heard from one of our radio promos. But to talk all things Condors, we're talking to the boys. That'd be Mr. Ryan Holt. Sir, how are you?
I'm great, guys. How you doing?
Oh, can't complain. Obviously, we split over the weekend, though. What did you see out there in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, you go to Texas, long travel day Thursday to get out to Austin, Cedar Park, and come away with a nice 4-1 win on Friday, and then maybe not the start the team was looking for on Saturday. Got behind 2-0 early. I thought the team actually played pretty well in the first period. We had 17 shots. Probably deserved a goal or two there in the first. It would have changed the game, I think, and then it got out of hand there in the second. But, I think overall, if you sit before the weekend, you go to Texas to get a split, that'd be, what you're looking for.
Mhm.
What I'll say the issue now is, or at least the concern now is everybody is winning in the Pacific, it seems like. So
Yeah.
anytime you don't get a win, you're kind of dropping ground, and the team has 13 games left, but, still there in the 4-hole, and with a crack at home ice advantage for at least one round, maybe two rounds in the first couple of rounds. But it's a gauntlet of division right now, and it'll be a fun final 13 game.
Absolutely. And we have another chance at the Stars at home in about a week, correct?
Yeah, they come here next Friday and Saturday, and they'll be part of a long trip for them. So we'll be rooting. They'll be in Henderson, and then they'll be in San Jose too. So we're hoping they go 4-2 on their trip, and then the two losses are in Bakersfield.
And in those last 13 games that you talked about, 4 of them are going to be key against the Gulls. I know we go to San Diego on Friday, and then we come home for the game against Calgary, and then we have 3 against the next month. And we know we have 2 against the San Jose team as well. How big are those games going to be, since this entire stretch from 3 to looks like 7 is pretty dang close right now?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, San Diego last night, they were trailing for much of that game in Colorado, ended up scoring 2 goals in the final, 4 or 5 minutes, forced overtime, ended up winning in a shootout. So, not only do they win, come from behind and win, they get 2 points, but Colorado gets the points for getting into a shootout. So it seems like this time of year, every game, features 3 points, right? You're rooting for every other game in the division to, finish in regulation. But, I think if the Condors take care of business down the stretch the way they have all year, out of the 13 games, 8-9 wins, that puts you, comfortably in home ice advantage spot. And I think, this team's more than capable of doing that. It's basically what they've done all year, has gone, 8-4 through 12 games throughout the season. So, San Diego's a big one on Friday night, kind of, set the tone for the weekend. And, we talked about, the schedule, the way it's worked out is January and into February was our busiest month. And now March, we kind of hit the brakes. We only played, Friday, Saturdays here for, the last 2 weekends, and then, the next 2 weekends. So, you want to give yourself the best possible chance. And that's by winning your own games and then letting the chips fall as they may from other teams playing some games during the week.
I mean, obviously the big game Friday against San Diego in San Diego, but like we've talked about, where the standings are right now with the Pacific Division, so tight and every point matters. I mean, how would you describe where the Condors sit right now in the playoff race, and what really needs to happen over this next 12, 13 games?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of take care of business. It's, it's the fun time of year, right? Like, we weren't probably expecting 90 degrees this week, but, we call this playoff weather around here. And, we, are fortunate to be out here because when the temperatures start to heat up, usually the playoffs are around the corner, right? And we're fortunate out here to, have the nice weather and have the nice early playoffs where, some other places it's still snowing this time of year. So, it's a fun time of year. The guys definitely feel it. And, this is what the AHL wanted when they went to, kind of the NBA model, if you will, with some play-in tournament or, basically play-in series and shorter series and more teams maybe getting in, is they wanted meaningful games down the stretch. Now, in the NBA, that hasn't really worked out because teams started tanking and deciding they wanted draft picks. But,
Right.
they don't have that luxury in the AHL, right? Like everybody wants to win. This time of year, everyone's playing for contracts next year individually. And then there's teams that are good and, want to play for a title and play for division championships and things like that. And that's where, the Condors kind of are. So, I think there's, 13 games left. And like I said, 8-9 wins kind of puts you in a nice spot here going into the postseason. There's going to be playoff hockey in Bakersfield. It's just a matter of, where we're going and who we're playing and things like that. But, it's so tight right now, outside of, maybe Ontario and Colorado separated themselves a smidge, but it's not that much. 1 through 7, this year is going to be a dogfight in round 1, and we'll see what ends up happening.
Love that.
Being back home Saturday night, we've been giving away tickets all week, but Star Wars night, we're playing against Calgary. I mean, what's the vibe for these, theme nights, and, how much energy does that give the Condors, not only with a Star Wars type night, but being back home?
Yeah, I think, the team's 9-1 on Saturdays at home. So I think you can kind of, infer that, the crowds and the energy, definitely plays a role, right? This has been a tough place to play all year. The Condors have been one of the best home teams in the league. And I think, the crowd and the community obviously has a big reason, behind that. Saturday night, Star Wars night, usually a huge night for us, just in terms of everything that we got going on. We've got the 501st Legion, kind of patrolling the concourse, taking pictures, and kind of their antics up on the concourse. So great to have them out, and Jedi and fighter pilots and droids and Chewbacca, and the whole crew will be up there on the concourse, so you can grab your pictures throughout the game. We've got 2,000 light swords from our friends at Clark's Pest Control. They're going to be giving them out at the game too, so that'll provide a little atmosphere as well. And then on the ice, we're wearing droids themed jerseys. So we used to have orange as part of our color set. It was our third jersey, but now with orange kind of going away from our color set, we've brought it back here with the droids jersey. So BB-8's on the front of the jerseys, and the guys that are into Star Wars on the team liked them earlier this week. So looking forward to wearing them on Saturday. And we'll have a little auction as well too for charity.
Love that. Now, and it's weird when people say Clark Pest Control, because that was my family business before we sold it a couple of years ago. So love to see that they are still thriving as well. I wanted to ask you a question though, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You were talking about how the younger players and the rookies had to get used to a longer schedule. How have they been transitioning into that? Have they been doing well from what you can tell? And are we seeing these guys kind of get into their own here as the season progresses?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Josh Szymanski's up in the NHL right now, and he's providing big minutes for the Oilers, and they just lost Leon Draisaitl this week for the rest of the year. So he's going to take on even a more important role, right? Like, I mean, this was a kid who at the start of the year, not many people had heard of him, and then all of a sudden, he's third line center for a team that's projected to at least compete for a Stanley Cup here in the next couple of weeks. So that's great to see. And then I think for our guys at this level, it's the Hudsons, the Howards, the Marialas of the world. It's definitely been an adjustment, I think, going into the 60 game grind here, and now almost into game 70 here. For a team that, for a lot of the college guys, if they played 40 games a year, that was a heavy year for them. So definitely adjustment. And, that's why this league exists, right? Is for guys to, be able to have that adjustment at this level, so that when they, do get the call to the NHL, when they do get the call to the, the 82, 84 game schedule, they're, I would expect the team to, be firing on all cylinders here down the stretch. There's enough offensive firepower on this team to carry it, through the final 6 weeks of the regular season. And at the end of the day, we'll see where we end up, standings wise. But I like the matchup for this group against, whoever kind of comes on the other side.
And 3 real quick questions for you before we let you go, my friend. One did have to do with Leon Draisaitl. Is that only for the regular season? Would he be ready for playoffs, or is he gone?
I hope so. I think all over the country hopes so.
Yeah,
I think Stan Bowman talked earlier today, Oilers GM, he, kind of hinted to the fact that if everything goes right, Leon would be, available at least, towards the end of the regular season and for the playoffs. So, at least that's the hope. So I think everyone's kind of, clutching their pearls and hoping.
Okay, and that's what I had read, and that's what I was concerned about. I saw it come down the ticker yesterday, and I said they said regular season though, and they don't usually say that unless it's only for the regular season. So I'm glad to hear that. The other question at the NHL I wanted to ask you about was this entire situation with Austin Matthews and the injury that happened to him about a week or two ago in his game against the Ducks. I mean, from the outside looking in, obviously I'm a casual NHL fan, but I do see the need for some sort of teeth in the organization coming down on some of these players for some of these uglier injuries that go on. But is that something that you think that needs to happen across the board when it comes to hockey? Do we need to crack down on some of these, for lack of a better way to put it, just cheap shots?
Yeah, I think, for years players have patrolled themselves, right?
Right.
The game has policed itself, and a lot of that's been taken away, over the last, decade or so, or maybe 15 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, the players themselves want to see the game, policed fairly, I guess, if you will, from
Right.
a suspension standpoint. I thought, 5 games was pretty light for Judas, especially given
Said the
his
same thing.
given his background, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's got a long rap sheet. I love him on my team, but he's a guy who, has been suspended in the past. He's been fined in the past. And, you take out the game's, preeminent player up in the preeminent market up in Canada, that's a tough pill to swallow. I really do. And, from a team perspective, from Toronto's perspective, the fact that there was no pushback from them, that would have me more concerned.
Right.
From their perspective, right? If I'm the GM or if I'm the in management up in Toronto,
Like, why aren't you backing your guy? This is your star player.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that just shows, and they're they're all out of the postseason. They've had a disappointing area.
that's no reason not to be mad about.
That's a little bit of a look into their dressing room.
Right. So do you think that it needs to go back to more of that traditional style of just letting the players govern themselves, or should the league kind of step in?
I mean, in that situation, I'd like to see somebody stick up for their teammate. Whether it's Matthews or whether it's somebody else. That didn't happen, and I don't think the suspension was that great. And McDavid, kind of talked about it. Maybe the inconsistencies in suspensions. And if the game's best player in the world is speaking out and saying, hey, we need to look at this, or we need to be a little more fair with this, then, maybe we do need to be a little more fair with it. So we'll see what the process is moving forward. But, it definitely 5 seemed a little late for a nasty knee on knee check.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. And then my last question for you. How do you feel U.S. taking the 3-game sweep here, as we won in sledge hockey as well in the Paralympics? Stole everything from Canada. Is hockey an American game now, Holty? Have we taken it?
Absolutely. Yeah, everything resides here, and it was great to see. I mean, those guys were unreal. Like, if anybody's never seen sled hockey, I mean, it's crazy. Like the amount of mobility they have on either one or two blades, and then basically using their arms for everything, and the amount of agility that they have, and there's still contact and there's hard hits. I mean, it's a crazy sport, and great for the U.S. to win it, and great to get all 3.
We trade baseball for hockey.
Yeah. Well, no, we can't do that. I can't lose baseball. I don't know what
I knew the U.S. was in trouble last night when Scooble, who was basically opted out of everything except for the party, didn't want to pitch and didn't want to do anything. And then Whitlock goes out there and he's pitching like 4 out of 5 days. As a Red Sox fan, I'm concerned now because do we burn Whitlock too early here?
He did great for the team, though. Only allowing 1 run the entire tournament was incredible.
He doesn't work that hard, for the Sox, during the year. Usually he has 2 days off in between every
and your boy
outing,
Roman Anthony saved our bacon against the Dominican Republic. If it wasn't for his home run, we'd all be at home a game early.
Yeah. So, no, I love. I'm a huge Roman Anthony fan. I think he's the next the next coming of the face of baseball, and another classic. Aaron Judge striking out in a big moment game.
No kidding. We couldn't get 1 hit out of that guy in the final. 1 hit out of him, and we would have been fine. But it is what it is. Yep. Team USA lets us down in certain ways, but we win in hockey, so that's all that matters.
There we go.
Sir, thank you so much. We'll see you this weekend at Star Wars Night.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you Saturday. Take care.
Absolutely. We have a couple more minutes before we have to get out of here ourselves. We appreciate all of you guys joining us. We'll be back here 7 to 9 as always tomorrow. Who do we have on the ledger tomorrow,
We
Spark?
have Anthony and Bolt Brady.
Fantastic.
Right before March Madness takes over the whole radio station.
I'm telling you, this is going to be such a fun tournament. And I know a lot of people are liking Duke, but that also, like you said, Sparky, is kind of making me feel like we shouldn't be leaning on Duke this year. Maybe we should be looking elsewhere.
Well,
Honestly.
if I want to win, I want to win solo. I don't want to share the pot.
Now, don't get me wrong. I got Duke going pretty far. I
Me
mean,
too.
I got them going to the Elite Eight, but
I got
then they
in
run
my
into
Final Four, but
they run into Coach Izzo. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I always, especially when it goes late in the tournament, I lean on who's got the better coach. Who's the guy who's going to be able to lead you to the Final Four? And Coach Izzo always, every single time, he gets that close. He is always a contender. So
and our buddy Tyson texted in just to let us know that Phillip Rivers' son has committed. Okay.
To where?
I don't care. That's what but no, he said they committed to NC State.
Sweet. Yeah, he's part of the Wolfpack. That'll be cool to watch. I mean,
Gunnar Rivers.
We got to see was it Warner's son at Fresno State this last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm always excited to see the next in a line of families that could be playing football in the NFL. Most of the time they don't work out like their daddies do, but
babies.
Some of them do, some of them don't. That's all I'm going to say.
And I know we've got a couple of Steelers fans out there, so I wanted to bring up, I didn't cut the audio, but Rod Woodson went on a tangent last night. So he was just pissed off, and he said, dude, it is time for the Steelers to just cut the cord with Aaron Rodgers. He said, this waiting game.
He did the same thing last year.
He said, dude, last year was a joke, and he thinks this year it's time to get a young quarterback in there and start with the receivers that they've got, which they've got some weapons now.
Oh, they do. Absolutely.
I would be surprised if Rodgers just walks away.
Speaking, did you see the latest episode of the Homegrown podcast? Not to take us on a tangent, though.
No.
Derek and David getting upset that people call him Michael Pittman instead of Michael Pittman Jr. because they're disgracing his father, or not disgracing his father, but they're discrediting his father, who was a stud, by the way. But no, I agree with him to a point. Why are we waiting this long? If you're going to come back, let them know you're coming back. I mean, this is the same problem we had last year when everybody was talking about, where is he going to go? How is this all going to go? Is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? And to a point, this doesn't help everybody's hatred of him, saying that he's a media floozy. I can't say the word I want to, but media floozy.
You think he makes the at least lets them know before the draft?
I would hope so. If not, what are we doing? But at the same time, he went on McAfee and was talking up Will Howard, saying that he loves Will Howard and would want Will to be essentially his heir apparent. But
is he hinting at something?
Maybe. A lot of Steeler fans, I've heard the same thing. They all love this kid. So maybe we do get Will Howard for a year. And he's just waiting it out just to make sure the Pittsburgh Steelers don't draft another quarterback. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers plays the game he wants to play. We got to get out of here, though. Hopefully, we'll see you guys tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. Anthony Howdeggy from The Well be joining us, and our guy, Bolt Brady from the Believe Network, give you all of his picks for March Madness. But until then, Sparky, let's get out of here.